What's going on, change makers? I'm Michael, and welcome back to Power to Change Digital, where we want to show you what God is doing through all of our strategies here in the ministry in order to encounter Jesus today, impact Australia tomorrow, and reach the nations for eternity. Today I have with me Tim Evans, who serves with Power to Change as a filmmaker on the digital team here in Melbourne at the HQ. Tim, welcome.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm well. This whole switching over to digital has been a definite kind of undertaking, but it's been really encouraging to still be able to move forward in ministry, see what God's doing, and really just interact with people like you to showcase really what God is doing and use this opportunity and this really tough time as a chance to show people more of an insider's look at what God's doing. So I'm excited for that today.
Me too.
Yeah, Tim, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How did you get here? Maybe a little bit about your life. I know you're married and that kind of thing. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm a missionary with Power to Change on the digital team living in Melbourne. I moved down to Melbourne about 5 years ago to join staff. I got involved in Power to Change like a lot of us missionaries through the campus movement. Got involved, started working on staff, met a girl called Beck Cameron at that point in time.
Wow.
That's right, campus missionary who I started taking an interest to, and we've been married a couple of years now. And yeah, about me, I'm just passionate about making films that can share the gospel with people.
And you recently made a film that is going to do just that, right?
Yeah, so the film's called Alone, and it's been a long undertaking for me. Joining staff 5 years ago, this has been something I've wanted to do for quite a while. We've had a few other film projects that we made in the past, but this is the first one that I've written and directed. And the production for that was last year, and we're just right now just finished wrapping up post-production, and the film is ready to go.
Far out. All right. So how long did that really take to get going from like when you had the idea for the film? We'll get into kind of what inspired that anyway. How long did that process take, just so people who aren't really aware of what goes into making a film can get an idea of that?
Yeah, sure. So I think like the script is always an interesting part because you can kind of talk about when did an idea for a story come, and the idea for the story for this probably came to me sometime in 2016. So if you really want to track it back, you could say it's been that long. But in reality, I wrote the script around 2018, and then I started the process of thinking about actually making it into a film end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And so the whole process, I mean, that involves everything from finding a crew to make the film to finding the funding for the film. A lot of stuff goes into the making of it. So it's actually, yeah, for what's a short film is actually quite a long process.
Yeah, so with all that going on and kind of, let's get before production, all the things are happening. And even now where it's about to be released, we're actually going to show you guys the film here today. But really, what inspired the theme Alone? What's the point of the film here? Like, really, what do you want people to get from this or experience from watching it?
Yeah, so I think for me, it always comes down to something to do with my relationship with God. I think if you're going to make a film that's about sharing the gospel with people, you don't want to make a film that's just about telling them about the gospel or trying to preach to them, because that kind of, the whole point of a film is there's a story and a narrative and a journey that you want to take people on. It's not just about telling people something. And it's also about emotion and an emotional connection you have with characters. And for me, I was thinking about, times with God and times where I felt not close to God and where I felt like I'm just praying or I'm talking and I'm just talking to the ceiling. And that real feeling of loneliness and feeling like, no one cares about me. I could really remember those feelings for myself, but I knew that in those times, God was always there with me. And so that's really where the inspiration for the film came in. This idea that you could be on a journey in life where you feel like no one cares about you and there's no one there, but through that whole time, someone is actually hearing you and someone does care about you. So that's kind of where the idea came from for me.
Man, yeah, I could see how that would be really powerful, especially in this current climate that we're in, socially, with isolation happening and forced isolation even. Yeah, and how even before all of that, this has been a huge issue with just connectedness, especially in the digital age. I think it's really cool that in the midst of that, you're stepping into a digital platform in order to like point people to Jesus, and that's really powerful. So, why? I guess for people maybe who don't know much about why film, because I feel like maybe a lot of people know what campus strategy looks like. Man, if you could just tell us in your own words, why do you think that film and media is so powerful in this day and age to reach people with the gospel, to use that? I know it's not too like done right now in terms of what you're doing, in terms of the narrative side, the creating these narrative short films in order to reach people. That's not really that common. So why is that important right now?
I think for me, obviously I'm passionate about film. I wanted to be a filmmaker for a very long time. So it seems like a really obvious space for me to be moving in. But I know for a lot of people, there is that question of like, how does a film actually work as something that communicates the gospel to people? And I think it really comes down to what is it about the gospel that we want to connect people with? And for me, what I always see with that is there's the truth of this relationship that we can have and this emotional connection we can have to someone. When we present the gospel to people, oftentimes we talk about like, what are the facts of the gospel? And I think that's an amazing way to present it. But there is this whole other side of like, what does it mean to actually be in a relationship with God? And when you're talking about films, they're one of the best medium to communicate this emotional connection and these emotional stories and the narrative that you have there and the journey you take with someone. You can talk about like, this film talks about what it means to be in a romantic relationship, for example. There are hundreds and thousands of films like that. And every time someone watches and engages with those films, they go on this emotional journey and they experience some of that. And so for me, it's really about connecting to people's hearts with a film. You can really get to the heart of the matter. It's sort of similar to when Jesus would tell a parable. The way he would talk about the idea of, something to do with the kingdom and something to do with the gospel that he was sharing through a parable would always be about a story that had some sort of emotional engagement for people, often quite an uncomfortable one for the people of the time. The other thing about film that's really powerful is that it's just where people are. We look at people who are going to uni today, people who we're talking about trying to connect with, and they are just in a visual world. They engage with YouTube, they engage with Instagram, they engage with video all the time. And so if you want to be talking to these people, you've got to be speaking a language they understand. Again, going back to Jesus using parables, he talked about, sheep and farming and sowing and stuff, something that was relevant to people at that time. For us now, it's digital and it's media and it's film is one of those really key ways.
That's really powerful. So before we jump into actually showing you guys this film that he's been working on for, you said a year and a half now?
About that, yeah.
Man, before we get into showing you guys that today as a broadcast live, Tim, is there anything that you, I guess two questions. One, how do you want people to see this? What frame? I mean, I understand that, each person gets their own interpretation when it comes to creative outlets like music and film, but as you being the person who has created this, is there anything that you want people to know before going into it as to maybe how to use this, how to share this with their friends, even, what lens to view this through? Is there anything that you would want to give our viewers before we jump into this?
I'm actually okay for people to engage with it how they want to. I think that, like you say, people are going to find different meanings and different things out of it. But in terms of sharing it with your friends, I think that the main way I would talk about using this film is actually as a tool for relationships. So you might have someone in your life that you've been having conversations with about the gospel, but you kind of reached a point where it's kind of an awkward thing to have a conversation about, or maybe you're not quite sure where to go next. I think showing them this film and having a conversation about it, especially someone who is going through a tough time, where they're feeling alone or feeling isolated, which could be a lot of people at the moment, showing them this film actually gives you a real platform to actually have a new conversation about what does it mean to experience loneliness? How do you process that feeling? And talking about how God meets us in that place and actually is the one who will never leave us and who's always by our side and always there to be with us. And the film, as you'll see, has a message of hope at the end of it. It's called Alone. It's about loneliness, but it's really about the question of what if you're not alone? What if there is someone who cares for you?
So Tim, before we jump into this film, where can we watch it? How can we share it? What do we do with this?
Yeah, sure thing. So in order to use the film, we're going to have it available a number of ways. One of those ways is the Jesus Film app. It's going to be put up on there, so anyone who's got that can share it. We're also going to have a link that you can send people to that's managed within Power to Change itself. So for those of us who don't want to send, Jesus Film links to people, maybe those people aren't as engaged with Jesus, we're going to have another link for that. And then there are a few other ways I'm working on getting it into people's hands, whether that's in a big format where you can show it and have a big viewing and things like that. So if you have any ideas or any ways you want to use it, please feel free to email me, tim.evans@powertochange.org.au. I'd be really keen to hear suggestions and to engage with you guys.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I would love to, before we jump into this film, pray very quickly over this and then throw it over to be finally viewed by somebody else's eyes other than yours, I guess. You've probably watched it how many times now?
Yeah, I don't need to see it again.
Yeah, no more. But we get to watch it for the first time. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I'm excited. Tim, let me pray. God of all creation, we thank you that you are the ultimate creator. God, that you designed all things beautifully. God, that you are the artist of all. And so, God, we thank you that you inspire people like Tim with ideas to reach the nations, to reach every screen, God, to reach people through any medium. And we thank you that you have done this. And so, God, we just pray over this film right now. God, we pray that you would use it to reach the nations. I pray that right now during this epidemic, God, would it be used to reach people in the midst of isolation and loneliness, God, and point them back to you. God, I pray all of this in your precious Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, guys, it's been a long time coming. I'm excited. I hope you are, and we hope that you will enjoy this live premiere of Alone, a short film by Tim Evans. Enjoy.
Is anybody there? Hello, can anybody hear me? Is anybody there? Are you there? Hello? Thank you.